Did you see that Mason Cox was just riding his bike down past the
Well, no,
precinct in Richmond yesterday?
you told me because you were going. What?
Yeah, I was watching on the bike. He looks like an absolute he's a stick, just riding down. And we look over. He's got this weird ass helmet. It's like a space shuttle.
Oh, why would he? Oh, because his eyes. Think about it for a second. Nothing can get in his eyes, so he has to have the goggles, but for a bike helmet.
It was so weird. Like we saw this big tall guy and we're just like, what is he doing? Like, why is he at 12 o'clock, 12:30? Like, is he really trying to recover from Sydney being in his head?
I don't think he worries about that much. He probably was doing post-pod anxiety.
Probably.
Oh,
well, he might have had a big night from the USA winning the basketball night.
No. Remember, he's Australian now.
Still a Yank to me. Oh, g'day, guys.
That was pretty obvious.
We're frauds.
We are. It's France Olympics. He decides, I'll just break into recess and go make a sandwich.
Like you're moving like you're dancing. You look like this cha-cha-cha.
Hey guys, welcome back to the pod. It's Uneducated Nuffies. I am Jonty. I'm joined by
Ethan Stone. It's a pleasure to have you guys back for episode number 2. It's been a very eventful week in sports. There's a lot has happened. A lot to go through.
But how was your weekend, mate?
It's just I don't know what to do.
Well, what?
My club have destroyed me, but I've recovered. I'm okay. I'm okay, but
what else did you actually do on the weekend, mate?
We had a bit of fun. Watched some local football out in Woorolloc. The Woorolloc Tigers got up and beat Mount Evelyn. Good game. I saw one of the local players, Taylor Gibson, kick 9 out of piss take game. Then what I'll get to later, we had a fun night Saturday night somewhere. I'll get that later in the segment. And then Sunday, I went to go see a massacre.
I'd say a funeral.
It was the death of a club that I dearly am beloved with. But how was your weekend, Jonty?
Oh, mine was nice and quiet, actually. I've had a pretty busy couple of weeks. So I went up back to Bendigo to see my dad for his birthday. So it was pretty nice and quiet. Nothing really going on. Had an interesting Friday night. But otherwise, it was a good weekend.
It was, but I think everyone's just mourning that the finals. I think everyone's starting to realise that the 8's coming together now.
It is coming together now, and the teams who have been pretending all year, they can make it.
We're not gonna. I'm not having pretenders because there is other reasons as to why some teams are not performing. But
you're right. Do you need like a cough medicine?
I think I just choked like yesterday.
Oh, okay. You're right.
Let's get into the weekend of sports.
Absolutely, the Crows were right in front of me.
We're going to engage with our mind.
Well, do you think they didn't come to play? Do you think they sat in their cars waiting for the game to start and go out there?
So it looks like Sydney have finally decided to enter the chat again.
It's only taken, 6 weeks to be proper contenders again, and annoyingly they had to do it against us when it was finally looking like we're coming back into this season. No.
It was very just like, I was shocked because I reckon I watched it to about 3/4 time and Collingwood were up by about 28 points. And then I'm thinking, game over. I'm going to go to bed. And then I get a message from Jonty and a mate of ours saying, how have Sydney come back? I'm thinking, what have you guys done to get to this position?
Well, see, I had the opposite viewing event. I was doing something for the first 3 quarters. I come back for the final quarter. We kick the first goal. I'm like, I already know what's about to happen. I can just see it. And I go to the place I was at. I was said, no, we're about to choke this. And then I just watched Sydney put on 6 goals within the space of 10 minutes. It was ridiculous, and I hate it.
I think Isaac Heaney just realised that he is probably still one of the best players in the comp and realised, even though I'm not going to get Brownlow, I'm going to try and still somehow win it.
Well, I think a premiership is bigger than a Brownlow. Let's remember ourselves with that. Heaney's finally realised, hey, Sydney, we kind of need a win here, and they might get their form back just in time.
It was great. It was a great game. I was a big fan of seeing Mason Cox again after kicking 2 goals. It went well for our multi. He kicked a goal. shushing the crowd in the second or third quarter.
That's the Mason Cox we all know and love, all right? That's the one that gets people riled up.
It's just like, what do you... it's too early to be shushing. Unless you're winning by 60, 70 points, don't shush. Because you're pretty much just... you're going to cause a commotion that's going to happen, and it's going to roll over, and then you're going to be on the bad end of things.
To be fair, he is just there to take the piss, all right? He's not... I'm tough call here. This is a Draper call kind of here. He's not going to be getting a new contract.
Good.
So...
can we deport him back to the US then?
No, he's going to be an ambassador.
Oh.
So he might, but no.
Oh, well. But what do you reckon... what went wrong in that last quarter for Collingwood?
I don't think anything went wrong. That's the thing. I think Sydney finally put it together. Because Sydney weren't out of it the whole game like people were making it out to be. We just got a few goals in a row. But it was going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I think they finally just put it together in that centre clearance, which obviously you could say went wrong for Collingwood, but I don't think there was anything particularly bad. It's just that Heaney and Warner were so on fire, so in it, that they just took over.
Oh, it was phenomenal, especially in that last quarter. You had obviously Heaney and Chad Warner were finally realised what they were doing, and then you had Errol Goulden put in like a last 5-10 minute run where he didn't rock up for the whole game, but that last 10 minutes and kicking that winning goal was... they just sort of just had everything click at the right moment that they hadn't had click for the last 6 weeks.
Now there is one debate that we should be having about this. What do you think of the 3 calls that were made late on? So it was 2 deliberates and then 1 50 not called.
The deliberates, I think, were fair enough. I think...
was it harsh or was it...
it's harsh, but it was there. And I see the AFL is still trying to crack down on the deliberate call because it has been an issue with, especially late in games, those players looking at the boundary. As a defender, you normally want the boundary to be a friend, but it doesn't reward good efforts. But that over the mark probably should have been 50. But I think because... who had the ball? It was
Dan McStay.
Dan McStay. I think because he played on almost before it could be called, sort of really had the umpire thinking, what do I do here? He was in 2 worlds. So it was like, if McStay sort of just waited and pointed it out, I reckon it would have been called.
Well, he did point it out. He kind of played on about, I reckon, 2 or 3 seconds too early.
Yeah, he should have, if he waited a bit more, let the umpire see, either make the call, get back, doesn't move, then you call it. Because I think, obviously, you're rushing for time, but there was still plenty of time on the clock that you can either get a 50-metre penalty there or still get it in deep.
Yeah. No, it's definitely... there would be a call there, because I've seen it called quicker than that by some umpires, but obviously right in the moment of the game. The game's not... they're not going to go straight away, okay, that's 50, because it's so close. It's such the game-defining call.
I think the umpires are really trying to now stick on to letting the players make the game and not them.
Yeah,
I think that was a good instance of it, but it probably still should have been called.
Probably should have been, but we can't blame on that.
Oh well,
They
Collingwood done.
Well, to be fair, after the week results, we're still technically in it.
Mathematically, but I think
Brisbane,
you're packing
and MCG, tough game. Could get it done, probably not.
I think you're packing up the shop. You're saying to Goey, Dacos, start looking for Europe, Barley. Just we're gonna call it.
Or Nick Dacos goes 2 games to try and get a Brownlow.
Yeah, he could start looking a stat pad there.
Moving on, because talking about my club, it probably isn't that bad because our loss, it was 3 points, yes, close comeback, but in the grand scheme of things, it's the top club beating the side that they should be beating. This was the other way around. Now, Giants aren't a pushover; they're a top 4 team, and they're now the flag favourite after beating Brisbane. But what a way to do it after being pretty comfortably beaten in the first quarter.
It was very interesting. I was listening to it on the radio, and it looked like Brisbane were running rings around them. And it looked like they were going to get home easily, but especially with it being at the Gabba. And then Giants were just able to stay in. And in the end, their accuracy won in the game because they kicked 4 behind for the game, whereas Brisbane kicked 16, and that ended up being the difference maker, in my opinion.
Well, you look at how much we've been praising Brisbane's forward line for just like most of the second half of the season. It's been really accurate and really able to fulfill what they need to do. Joe Danaher didn't have a bad game. I'll give him that. But the rest of the forward line didn't seem to have the same impact you normally see from them. And the Giants were able to exploit that.
Yeah, and I think the Giants have a really good, strong defence that is holding up against the best in the comp. Sam Taylor, you got Lockie Whitfield and a couple other names back there that are just really sort of making it difficult for those forward lines to really compete against and putting the pressure. And they probably had about 6 or 8 rush behinds, but that ended up being the game because it doesn't matter if you try and keep it in. If you put a rush behind, it helps you guys to get possession and you only give up a point.
Another thing is we're seeing the emergence of 2 players here. One's having a breakout. One we know is so talented, but it's missed most of the season. For the Giants, Finn Callaghan has had a breakout end of the year so far. And Will Ashcroft comes back from injury and looks like he's back to even better than what he was beforehand.
Yeah, I think we'll start with Finn Callaghan. I think he's really sort of cemented his spot in that team and become a genuine star player. Like, I would not be surprised if he gets voted in the All-Australian top 40. I could see him getting a nod there. I don't think he gets into the squad, but I could see him getting a nod possibly there.
If it was going off second half of the season, it could be a shout. I don't think the first half of the season matches that.
Yeah, but I think he could still make a case for it. I feel like especially the All-Australian selectors will look at that second half of the season because that's where it's sort of like it's more that pressure end of the season and it's all about where these biggest players step up, and he has stepped up in that situation.
He has become one of the almost most pivotal players. He's been probably the best player over the last 2 weeks. If not, some games he's had a little bit of a down, but that's what you expect from a player so young and so getting some experience. And also midfielder has Tom Green, Brent Daniels, who's gone in and played midfield minutes when they need it and has played really well. Like Callan Ward, Cornelio, when they're all there, it's a tough midfield to crack into.
I think especially with Callan Ward, he's rejuvenated on that wing. He sort of found a new sort of fit. He was sort of like floating around like he wasn't what he used to be. But then once they moved him on the wing, he sort of found this new sort of form that's really been outstanding. He's really making a name for himself out there on the wing.
Yeah, and now on the other end, Will Ashcroft, who probably was the best player in Brisbane's team yesterday. Oh, not yesterday, over the weekend, but he had an absolutely ridiculous performance for someone who's missed all the year with foot injury. Can't do anything for most of the year. Most of the time, people make fun of him because he's obviously got his TikTok account. You see some of the stuff he does on TikTok, and it's like, mate, just take a break. Just, you're injured. Just like, don't put yourself in position. And you know what? He has done himself good service. To
be honest, he is a star, but he's a number 2 pick for a reason. He's a star midfielder. He's a ball getter. For someone as young as he is, he gets in the right positions. It's what you want in that as a midfielder. But I'm looking at them, especially with Levi Ashcroft coming in the draft this year, nominating Brisbane already. Their midfield, it's going to be hard to crack minutes in there.
Well, Levi might be seeing minutes like Kyle Lohman does with mid forward, or Zach Bailey, or Cam Rayner, like mid forward, or are we going to be seeing him move to the halfback flank because he's not going to fit in that team? But it's also, you have a look at their midfield list. Lockie Neal, Zorko's playing off halfback, but will play minutes in midfield sometimes. You have McCluggage, who is young star, so fair enough. Who else you got in there?
Dunkley, who I think is still a very good ball getter. You've paid a lot of money just to get him up to Brisbane.
You have Ashcroft back in now, Will. So you're probably not looking at Levi getting minutes for the next 2 years, probably.
It's going to be, and I think that might put pressure on them, and then he might want to leave. But hopefully that's not the case, because if they do get him, they are looking at having one of the best lists in the comp, and it does look like they could possibly, if they can figure out how to play at the MCG, they could repeat the 01-23 Lions.
They could, but I don't think the ability around them continues to look the same, because we often see one side of the ball foul them each time they are in a position and they lose. Defensively, probably was the case this time. They had to put the pressure on the forwards to miss, but at the same time, their forward line obviously missing 16 shots. Like, they have plenty of chances. They should be converting more.
And with them still having to play Essendon up in the Gabba and you guys in Melbourne, it could be very interesting to see how they can sort of do it against teams who are really at least trying to prove something. Obviously, you can still play finals, but wanting to prove something at the end of the season that they are still a good team looking to find some form going into next year.
Well, for one, it's a repeat of the grand final this week. It's Collingwood at the MCG. That's a game they'll want to win. If Brisbane want to contend this year, they have to win that one at the MCG because you're playing against one of the biggest crowds that you can, even though it's going to be much more mute than usual. And you're playing against a team that beat you there last time.
It'll be very interesting to see how they go this week, but I think there's still a lot of... It's just sort of shown how sort of great this season's been, that a team who we thought who won nine in a row or 11 in a row can just lose a game to a team who are just finding form too, and that there is really no team that is in form because everyone's really even this year, and it's sort of creating a great aura for going into finals.
It's anyone's finals. There's like only 8 points separating lots of the teams. So you're anyone who can win at this point in the season. So you're looking at teams like Port Adelaide, looking at teams like Sydney that can get it back on, Giants, Geelong as well right now. Those teams who've been winning and be able to do it consistently, they're the ones you're looking at and going, they are a scary proposition coming in the finals. Now, you have a story to tell about this next game.
This was a very fun night. So on Saturday night, we had one of our best mates. We had a 21st birthday gift. We took him to the box for the Essendon versus Gold Coast game. We had a corporate box. And my God, what a show it was. And the show was the Mac Andrews show. I have never seen someone's face as an Essendon supporter drown so much. We're at the goal end as well, where he kicked the goal. I watched the ball come in, and as I see Mac Andrew mark it, I'm like, oh no, he's going to kick it. And after the halftime fight they had, it was only been one person only. Came off that boot. Didn't look great off the boot to start with, but it came back, shaped back, and I've never seen someone drain like air out of Marvel before like that. It was just deathly silent, but it was phenomenal to watch. I just think I couldn't imagine anything worse to experience them now doing it back to back years, losing after the siren, with 2022 being Elliott and 23 being Houston, and now Mac Andrew.
They are this like they just don't get any year to be happy. Like they get a certain bit of optimism halfway through the year, and then they have the second half of the year fall off. It's something that maybe people should like just realize now. Like what 2005 is the last time they won a final. Like that long ago, Essendon. Like how much would you hate it to be an Essendon fan like at any time?
I wouldn't want to envy it. And if to know the stat, it's been over 7,282 days since they last won a final. But Essendon's finals drought winning streak, the last time they won, Mac Andrew was 8 months old.
Like, let's quickly just say this. Essendon, their final streak can actually drink. Like, the length of the final streak has been so long that the streak can go out and get drinks.
It's actually insane. Like, I thought being a Carlton supporter was bad. I feel bad for the Essendon supporters, but what I don't get is in the last quarter watching that, Essendon had so many chances to put the game away, and they kept not failing, but like they had their chance and they just missed them. How important is it for them to make these big moments count if they want to at least try and be pushing for where they were at the start of the season, being in fourth or second?
I don't remember, but it was 1 goal to 2 goals. There was only 2 goals Gold Coast needed. Like, if a team is down most of the quarter in comparison to you, and they only need 2 goals to win the game, and when you're going ahead and going inside 50, Jay Gresham also pushing the back, just not necessary.
Yeah, he had a chance. Obviously, he went on a kick goal, and then that was reversed because of the push in the back. But it sort of just shows the...
It sucked the life out of the
stadium. And it also shows that they're not equipped to handle those big moments, because it feels like it keeps happening again and again where Essendon get all so close and then fumble it.
Well, they're able to do it against Freo. That's the weird thing. Freo, they were able to come down from nearly 20 points down and win. Like, there's something that has to be in that camp where it's kind of like with us. Holding on to a lead, they can't do it. Being behind, they can.
I think they need to go out and look for some talent. There's some talent, especially on the market this year. They've got a chance to try and... They obviously went heavy on Ben Mackay in the off-season. That sort of not backfired, but hasn't sort of shown the promise that they were expecting.
Well, he was one of their better players, honestly, in that final stretch. He was able to move the ball around really well, which is something he's lacked over the last few weeks. But one defender who can't handball, by the way, one defender who can't handball is not enough to fix a defense issue that has lasted them for the last 6 to 8 years.
Before we go, is Mac Andrew him?
Well, he's a makeshift forward, and he's kicked 7 goals in 2 weeks. Like, it's ridiculous.
He must be getting very excited for this massive new paycheck he's going to get when he signs his new contract.
Or when he goes back to Melbourne, because there's always the hints that he goes back to Melbourne.
I think Carlton will look for you. We'll take you, Mac Andrew.
I think we will take him.
Nah, I think he wants to go to Carlton. I think we need him.
I don't think anyone wants to go to Carlton.
We'll afford you. But no, he's a star. Like, he, in my opinion, if he was still eligible, but he's been the most improved player in the comp. If he was eligible for Rising Star, I think he should win it. But I know he obviously is too old for that. But I think he's been by far the most improved player the comp's seen this year.
He's gone from being a player who just was fumbling around in the defense, not doing much, to now being at least not the best defender in the team. I'd say Sam Collins is still a better fullback in that situation. But he's able to shut down players when he needs to. And now he can swing forward and go kick 7.
It's great to have a defender who can be that versatile that go forward. Normally you see the forward go back. That's normally the transition you see. You rarely see the backman go forward. And to see that happen and the way he's done it so seamlessly, it's just like... It shows the special talent he's got.
It really does. And the Emerson really must appreciate Mac Andrews.
We won't get to that. We might hurt some feathers there. He would have partied very hard that night, I'd expect.
Now, mate, I know this result was... I've never seen the group chat just so quiet when Carlton are playing. So I'll let you take over.
So Sunday afternoon, we all saw what happened with Carlton Hawthorn. We saw it was a slaughterhouse in the MCG. And I don't know what to... I'm still trying to just gather my emotions from it. And it's really sort of just shown with everything. But even after what happened on Sunday, I still love this club. I will live and die by this club. Yes, we were terrible. Yes, we look like we were 2018 Carlton. But I don't care. I love this club. And I can't see this club again go down this path that I've seen before. Carlton, you need to pick it up. Figure out what the fuck's going wrong and sort it out. Because what I saw on Sunday was not Carlton. What that was, we had imposters out in the MCG.
Do you reckon Ben played 2 games this weekend? It was like, I'm going to take over for a second so you can calm down. Hawthorn have been playing this way this whole year. And when they play teams who have to kick down the line, you instantly see who it is because they go on and they absolutely thump them. They did it to us and they've done it to you. And the way they play is mesmerizing.
I think we thought we would have the advantage with that height, not having those taller defenders that Hawthorn don't have. But I think we didn't associate, if we didn't mark it, how we get the ball. Because as soon as that ball hits the ground, Hawthorn are instantly pouncing the ball and you don't get a chance. They are phenomenal on the ground. In my opinion, the best ball ground team in the comp.
Oh, looking at that, Harry Mackay dropped one mark. The ball's down the other end of the field within 10 seconds. Like, it's ridiculous. The way they move the ball so quick. Like, so Weddle, Amon, everyone just off the halfback flank, just absolutely going. It's just such a great football to watch, except when you're playing them.
Yes, and I haven't heard the MCG that loud before when Hawthorn, the fans realised that they were in the 8 and the G erupted. I haven't heard that since the semi-final last year. and it was loud. I'm sitting there, memorised by how loud and passionate those supporters are, but also like in frustration to the performance Carlton put on.
Now, we'll talk about your team because Kennedy did all he could to try and help this team out, but no one else showed up.
Yes, I think we showed up for a quarter, and obviously it was that first quarter we kept with them. But then I think once we lost 2 players on the bench straight away in Jack Martin, I think injuries played a massive part on Sunday. Obviously, you lost Jack Martin, Jordan Boyd had to play the second half on one leg. Charlie Curnow went out. We had, I think there was 1 or 2. Harry's now come out being injured. We've had 6 injuries come out of this game. We had no bench by the end of it. So I think that did play a part, but it's not, I think they were still too dominant even with our injuries we had.
But they just play a game that you can't stop unless you're a team that plays a similar style. And that's something which Giants did, because Giants play a similar style where they'll just absolutely pound it at you. And that kind of play style is not something that you can keep up with if your team is half VFL players or half injured. That's what Carlton really suffered with. And to be fair, your injury list now is the second worst it's been for anyone this season.
I believe it's up to either 16 or 18 on the injury list. And I think the names that are lining up on there are names who do get first 22 minutes, and it's really sort of hurting any chance we had. And I think yesterday or Sunday was a wake up call for the club. I think it's something they needed, because I think we're just trotting along thinking everything's here, we'll play finals, it doesn't matter. And theoretically we still can. I think if we can get those 2 wins against West Coast and St Kilda, we will play finals as long as we win both of those. I think there'll be teams down near those. I think Freo might lose a game or 2 here and that will drop them out. Doggies could, but I think it was a very much of a wake-up call game that we needed.
If you're missing Harry and Charlie, I don't see who you winning a game. There's no forward line to speak of now.
Yeah, especially with Jack Martin out too. We don't have any...
Matt Owies is probably your highest scoring forward now.
I think if anything, you have to move like a McGovern forward or something like that.
And that didn't work in that game. You look at going over to West Coast. One, injuries are going to be worse over a plane trip. Let's not sell it short here. Going across to Perth is going to be much too long of a trip for someone who's injured.
I think I don't want to say it's to pack up shop yet, but I think there's a lot of work to be done if we are to make a finals campaign.
Now, I don't feel any sympathy, unfortunately, because this is something that I found. I was going to put it in Melon of the Week. I was adamant originally, but we made some changes. Now, Carlton fans, when we lose, fair enough, you can have some fun, but don't treat it like it's your grand final. Carlton fans were treating it, you especially, as well in the group chat.
I think I've sort of I've been able to sort of have a bit of a not as down of a week because both you guys lost and Essendon lost, so that makes me somewhat more happier.
But every Carlton fan was treating it like a grand final when we lost to Sydney. All right, I don't understand why. It's a loss to Sydney. You guys lost by 60 points to Sydney. I wouldn't be too happy about it. I understand we make it hard for finals now, but now you've made it easier for us.
Yeah, I think we need to stop talking after a game like that, because I think Daniel Gorringe just posted every time Collingwood have lost and we've chirped, we're 0-5.
Now, we'll quickly go into our modal medal results for the weekend. Starting off on Friday night, Sydney Collingwood, it was 3 votes, Isaac Heaney. No one else on the field deserved any better. Chad Warner, 2, and Darcy Cameron with 1. And
next game, we had Brisbane versus GWS, where we gave Harry Himmelberg 1 vote, Will Ashcroft for his big game in 2 votes, but 3 votes to Finn Callahan.
Now, this game was hard to give West Coast votes, but we have 1 player. 1 vote in the North West Coast game goes to Harry Sheasel, 2 votes to Oscar Allen kicking 5, and then an absolute field day, Tristan Cherry, 30 touches and 12 tackles. Like, ridiculous. And with the Geelong versus Fremantle game, we 1 vote to Jordan Clark, 2 to Caleb Sarong, and 3 to Luke Ryan. Now, Essendon versus Gold Coast, we had 1 vote to the Mac Show, Mac Andrew, 2 votes Matt Rowell, and 3 votes, despite their loss, to Zach Merritt. For the Melbourne versus Port Adelaide, for the most boring game of the round, 1 vote to Kozzy Pickett,
2 votes Travis Boak, and 3 votes JHF Jason Horn-Francis.
Now to the massacre now. Hawthorn versus Carlton, and it was an absolute show by these 3 players. James Sicily with 1 vote, 2 votes to Conor McDonald, and 3 votes to Dylan Moore.
Now to the eyesore game, Richmond versus St Kilda. We gave 1 vote to Jack Sinclair, 2 votes to Daniel Rioli, and 3 votes to the big man Rowan Marshall.
And then lastly, in the graveyard, absolute surprise. 1 vote goes to Marcus Bontempelli for the Doggies, and then Lockie Scholl for Adelaide 2, and Jordan Dawson pulls out the 3.
So now looking at the top 5 rankings for the modal medal, we have in 5th place on the tie of 22 votes, we still have Adam Treloar, and joining the ranks, Rowan Marshall.
He's been a massive surprise in the vote so far.
He's been very good. In 4th place, we have Lockie Neal still on 23 points. Josh Dacos in 3rd, still on 24. Zach Merritt jumps into 2nd place on 25 votes, but still at top on 28 votes is my king, Patrick Cripps.
Now, obviously, we haven't actually finished going over the votes yet. Let's quickly clarify that. So they're still subject to change, but this is most likely how it's going to be.
We're still trying to find time to get around to it, but we will get around to it. We're going to have a look now into predictions for round 23.
Now, there's lots of season-defining games here. Much like the last few weeks, there's teams that need to win, and on the Friday night game, it's Essendon and Sydney at Marvel. Now, I think we're unanimous thinking Sydney's going to win. But
yeah,
it's going to be a close game.
I think Sydney will be able to... I think it's going to be as close as people think. I think Sydney will be able to run over it a bit and sort of prove that they're back in that contention.
All right, next up, Gold Coast versus Melbourne. I believe Gold Coast. They absolutely love it at home.
I think being at home, I think Gold Coast are too good up there. I know they've only lost 1 game for the year up there, but they'll be too good for Melbourne up there.
Even though Melbourne did give a great performance last week.
Yes.
Giants versus Freo. Giants at home should be a win for them, but Freo probably want to prove a point.
I think Freo will give them a good crack, but I think Giants will be too good and run over them in the end.
Yeah. Now Collingwood versus Brisbane. As much as I think we could probably do it at home, it's probably unlikely unless Brisbane turn up like they did last week against the Giants in their kicking. I think it's gonna be a Brisbane win.
Yeah, I think Brisbane have too much to play for here, and they are just looking still very good, even though they lost.
The showdown. The game of all games this round. Port Adelaide looking like they want to try and contend for once. But every single showdown, Adelaide look like the better team.
I think Adelaide especially come off the win against Western Bulldogs. I'll be tipping Adelaide this week. I feel like they just got something to prove. Even though they're not in finals, they'll be like, we don't want Port Adelaide to play finals.
Yeah, well, they'll play finals, but don't want them to win a final. And Adelaide, I think, will win too. I think they're going to come over the top. Now, St Kilda versus Geelong. Now, this normally would be a garbage time game, but St Kilda is showing some late season promise. They're not going to make finals, obviously, but they might want to prove something. And
I think they'll prove something, but I think Geelong will just be too good in the end. I think they've got the right thing, and they're hitting the strides, so I think Geelong will get over here.
Mark my words, St Kilda's going to win.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think they're going to win.
I'm all for this.
Their defense is playing very well recently. Now, yes, they played Richmond this weekend, but still, I think they're playing good defensively, and their forward line showing at least that they can kick 100 points multiple times in one season for once. That's the St Kilda issue normally. Mark my words, they're going to win.
I don't mind that. Okay.
All right, Doggies versus North. This is going to be another garbage time game.
No question. Doggies are winning here. I'm sorry, North fans. I think you're not up to the standard that Western Bulldogs are at the moment.
Doggies had their week to lose. It's now their week to win again. They're winning. Hawthorn versus Richmond. Another garbage time game. Hawthorn should just run over the top.
Mark my word, Hawthorn will win by more than 80 points.
Mark my words. Richmond are going to look more respectable than you guys.
I don't think so.
And then the last one, West Coast, versus Carlton, aka the hospital. I think West Coast, honestly.
As much as I hate to think, I think injuries are going to run over us, and I think as much as I think we should be winning on paper, I think West Coast will get over the top of us there.
And that is our predictions for next week. It is going to be a tough week. That some people are going to be absolutely hurting. I think you're going to be one of them, mate.
I think I might have to go in hiding for a couple of weeks. I don't think I can deal with it anymore. I don't know if I'm going to want to watch the game next week.
Now, from one football to the other, we're going on to actual football, aka soccer to some people.
Yeah, okay.
Now, let's quickly start off. There's not much going on other than transfers right now, so I don't really want to speak about international stuff. I wanted to talk about the Australia Cup because every year we have around this time, we have the round of 32 where all the A-League teams that qualified automatically and some other teams play against the teams from the NPL. And we had 3 cup sets this time, which is great. I always love a cup set, and I'm the only one who actually understands this part. So
I know what a cup set is. I'm all over the Australian Cup magic, and I saw these come up my feed. I was very much shocked to say the least.
Now let's start off. South Melbourne beating Wellington Phoenix 1-0 at Lakeside. That was pretty funny. Wellington have had a shit week for them. Let's be fair. This has been a pretty annoying week for them in particular. But then Oakley Cannons 3-1 over Sydney FC. I don't know what the fuck is going on.
I think that was very much a surprise. Well, probably wasn't the surprise of the weekend, but
no,
a surprise nonetheless. Seeing a team as big as Sydney FC, probably the biggest club, or if not the second biggest club the A-League has, falling this early to a team who's... Are they playing NPL 1? I don't think they got...
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
They're
not playing in the eventual second division whenever that comes.
Yeah, they're not playing second division. They're playing NPL, whatever it is. But a team like that was a massive win for Oakley.
And then this one, shout out to our mate Adam. Because, now, when you win the cup, you want to at least put a bit of effort in. Central Coast have been absolutely walloped by Heidelberg United, 3-1, and this is probably one of the poorest defenses I've seen from them, from a team yet.
It was.
I think we had a similar one because we went out to Western United straight away, but this one to a team that's not even in the A-League, it shows once again the NPL and A-League gap's not that different. But 2, Central Coast are going to have a tough year.
Heidelberg United, bravo. That was a performance, I think, one of the best performances the club's probably ever had. I think seeing a club just demolish a team who were the champions last year, it's awesome to see those smaller clubs get on a stage like this and then prove their point. I think it really shows, obviously, like you said, that there isn't a big gap between the A-League and the eventual Division 2.
Now, we'll quickly finish off on this. One of the 2 teams from the cup sets from last round will get to go through further at the expense of another one. Oakley versus Heidelberg is on Wednesday the 28th of August. So if you can get there, it's going to be a pretty good game.
Nuns avant Vinny. We are finished at the Olympics at 2024 in Paris.
Yes, we have. How long did that take you?
I may not been practicing that all weekend to say for this moment. But unfortunately, it's a sad time. The Olympics had their closing ceremony this morning. But what an Olympics it's been.
Yeah, it's been a really successful Olympics. We've had more gold medals per capita than most of the big nations.
It's been great to see Australian sports shine as much as it has at this Olympics. 18 gold medals. The per capita ratio, I believe we had for every gold medal was equivalent to 1.5 million Australians. What's phenomenal to see, it was the top 10 in the world is where we finished. But to see Australia really shine on the big stage and prove that we are a dominating sports nation was awesome to behold.
Now, not every sport has been the greatest of sports. We'll come back to that in the middle of the week. But most of the sports being great. Now, Nina Kennedy, women's pole vault, only gold medal in athletics for Australia.
I was watching that live and she really sort of shined in the pole vault and for the women. She was, I think, one of the favourites going into it, and she really just proved that she's levels above the others and put on a pole vaulting masterclass. It's the first gold medal we've had in pole vaulting since 2008 when Steve Hooker took out gold, and that was, I remember a moment that's etched in me in Olympic history for Australia, and to see Nina Kennedy do that, it's outstanding.
Now, also continue on with the sports that we actually love in Australia. Sorry, athletics, but we are more of a cycling nation.
Yes.
And the men's team pursuit, winning gold again.
They really it was one of the only golds I think we had in the velodrome, but they broke the world record in the semi-finals, then come out against Great Britain in the gold medal match, and they were sort of trailing at the start, and then the way they pushed back, obviously, I think one of the cyclists at the end for Great Britain had a bit of a stumble, and that cost them. But the way the boys rode, it was phenomenal.
It's something that obviously in Australia we see so much, like there's so many Madisons, there's so many different cycling events, and we're being so prevalent in most of the cycling events in the world.
It was great to see, and we also want to give a shout out to the 2 gold medalists in skateboarding, Arisa True and Keegan Palmer. I believe Arisa True is the youngest gold medalist Australia's ever had at age 14.
That is ridiculous.
It's phenomenal that you can send kids that young to the Olympics and yet let them win a gold.
Then I got to go back home and do exams after.
If she goes to the 2028 Olympics, she still won't be able to drink over there. She'll be 18.
But she'll also have to go do her VCE exams when she comes back. Like that's crazy.
To be honest, good on her. When I was 14, I reckon I was sitting at home playing FIFA.
I definitely was just playing FIFA.
Yeah.
Now, this has been in Australia's also, we were talking about golds beforehand. Overall, it's been one of the most successful. 50 total medals at least.
It's been a great medal tally in the end. I think there's a lot of positives being, obviously, it's our greatest campaign since 1964, I believe, that Australia's had. And to see this many medals come home in so many different disciplines and sports is amazing as well. It sort of really shows how diverse our country is compared to some others where a couple other countries dominate in certain sports, even though we did dominate the pool.
That's our bread and butter. So not surprising on that one. Now, we know we mentioned beforehand, but we know where the next game's obviously going to be because Tom Cruise had to come in and tell us and do a stunt.
I did see that. I did see you also saw Snoop Dogg performing, but we are going to LA in 2028. Well, I think I'm very excited for. There's a couple of new sports coming in, but I think there's a lot of promise coming to an Olympics in the US. I think they've always been outstanding in performing. I think the last time LA hosted it, it's the last Olympics where they actually made a profit.
Yeah.
In LA. So I think they've got a lot of promise, especially with the new facilities they've got, especially with the Clippers' new stadium they can use, as well as old Staples Centers, Crypto.com Arena, and many other places there as well.
SoFi. Obviously, the Clippers Dome as well, by the way. Intuit Dome is crazy. That stadium is crazy.
Yeah, I'm very excited for LA, but obviously we're going to have to wait 4 years now until the next Olympics. But well done to Australia. You've made us all proud, and we couldn't expect anything more from you guys.
Except for one person.
We'll get to you in a sec. Now we're going to go to the PEBS 5 for the week. So this week on PEBS 5, I wanted to have a look at 5 events that should be in the Olympics in 2028 and the sports that they should replace them with obviously LA 4 years away. These are what I think LA should be thinking about getting rid of and then obviously bringing in these new sports. So the first one I've got, I think we should remove football, soccer, from the Olympics and bring in cricket. I feel like for Olympic football that it doesn't mean as much to the players. Obviously, there's more pinnacles in having the World Cup, obviously the Euros, Copa America. They're more prestigious things, whereas an Olympic gold doesn't really mean much to the players. Whereas I think if you bring it in for cricket doesn't have that world stage one that they can compete in. Obviously, there's World Cups. But I feel like if you bring in an Olympic gold, the cricketers would love it. And I think it's a sport that needs to be in the Olympics. It's been missing for a while. And I think it will really show exciting format. Obviously, it would be T20 cricket I'd bring in, but it could be interesting to see what they do.
It would be interesting, but I don't think football's removed for that purpose. I know that there's the tournament aspect, but at the same time, football was probably the easiest one to market out of every single sport in the Olympics. Even in America, when they're going to have American football as well, I still think they'll keep it.
My second sport, I think we need to remove golf out of the Olympics and bring in netball. I think netball has been in the Commonwealth Games. I think there's a lot of promise. And I think golf is the same situation as I had with football. There's more pinnacles. Obviously, you want to win the Masters, all those other events. They don't have... Scotty Scheffler, when he went into the Olympics, they all did a thing, what do they want to get out of the Olympics? And he said, to have fun. And then he obviously wins gold. So it doesn't mean as much to them.
It's probably... golf is definitely what I agree with because it's not that interesting compared to the rest of the sports. I know a lot of people want to be interesting. But golf is probably one where it's not worth it for you to go play.
I think they got really good crowds to the game, but I think netball really is a sport. Obviously, it's female dominated and there'll be certain things, but I think it's a sport that is played in a lot of different countries. So I think it's something that needs to be added to the Olympics.
Fair enough.
The next one I have is we should remove tennis from the Olympics for the same reason I have golf and football. Your majors are the four. You got the US Open, Oz Open, Wimbledon, and Roland Garros. You don't need that as much. And I think they should bring in darts. I think darts is taking over the world at the moment. And how good would it to hear you be in a stadium here? 180.
No. This one is one I don't agree with because I don't think they want one. And there's someone here that I know shouldn't be in there. There's one in particular. But darts is like, I don't think they want to go have a sport where you can go down on the weekend and you go to the pub and you could be blackout drunk and you can still hit a 180.
But I think you underestimate how big darts is actually growing. Like, it's had its biggest growth market in the past 5 years. Obviously, Luke Littler being the big name recently, Michael Van Gerwen. The fans and viewers they got for the championship in December was outstanding. I think they do have a place in the Olympics.
I'm not saying that they're not growing. I know for a fact they're growing. I'm saying that it's probably not a sport the Olympic Committee wanted to consider.
They should, and they should make it mandatory to have a drink in the Olympics. Number 4, I think we should remove, and this one is a definite, I'm not having excuses, remove breakdancing and bring in professional downball. I could tell you right now how Australia would dominate in downball. Imagine playing Foursquare for a gold medal.
I think I'll win.
I think it would be one of the most fun things to see, and it brings like more of a, not a casual, but like you could beat anyone making the Olympics downball, and the amount of skill it would take to win it would be awesome.
I reckon they should just do what you do is you get all the countries to nominate one person, and then you make like a 56, well, like, because they probably won't have every country do it. Have like 56 squares, or like 60 squares, or 80 squares, and then you just play until there's no squares left.
No, you play for 2 hours, and whoever's the king at the end is the winner.
Like, that worked.
And the final one I want to remove is 3v3 basketball. I think you've already got basketball in there. You don't need 3v3. I think it was very much useless. I think we need to bring in Ultimate Frisbee. I think Ultimate Frisbee would be so fun to watch on the Olympic stage. Imagine throwing an 80-meter dart into the end zone to win a gold medal.
That it's funnier. It's definitely funnier. But I like seeing Jimmy Fredette pop up on my 3x3 basketball highlights, all right? So I think that's still got a place.
I think if you don't need all that basketball. I think get rid of 3v3 and bring in Ultimate Frisbee because it is a fun sport to watch and you can get viewers. I think it will be very cool. But that is my Pebs 5 for the week. Can I have a piece of this? Oh, look. It's Melon of the Week.
Welcome back to Melon of the Week. Now, this is a list you don't want to be on each week. This is where we criticize 5 people or things or entities.
Yes, Melon of the Week is very much, you don't want to be on it. Obviously, we have our Melon of the Year, and the tally's running up. We don't have any repeats from last week, thank goodness. But we've got 5 new people who this week you've really proven yourself as a Melon.
Now, number 5 is the A-League, aka, well, the FA in general. Well, not FA, the professional league, sorry. Now, over the week, it was officially announced that Alex Paulson would join Auckland FC. Now, this wouldn't cause any controversy originally. It was a loan deal. But the reason why is because Wellington Phoenix, who sold the player to Bournemouth, should have really got it back. They were willing to take him back on loan. Instead, because Bournemouth are owned by the same people who own Auckland, have now used that as a link instead. Now, this rule originally existed, the Caceres rule. Now, this is because Melbourne City, once they were taken over by Man City, kept on buying players and then loaning them back because it keeps it a lot more cost effective. And now they just completely ignore the rule. They basically just say, oh, we're going to review it for next year. Just, don't break it. It's just as simple as no, don't break it. Like, APL, come on.
Yeah, like, that's a bit silly of you. I think turn it up. No, sorry, that's copyright. I think you really need to just stick by your morals. You can't be having this on. It's corruption. You turn it into Carl. Come on. Number 4, we have St Kilda Football Club. With the recent talks of Taron Thomas joining your club, just don't do it. He's still under investigation. We know what he's done. Just there's no need for it.
The worst part is that they had to go ask senior players, including Mason Wood, who played with him at North, knows what Taron Thomas is like, and had to ask him, hey, is Taron Thomas worth the risk? What do you think his answer's going to be, other than no?
I think especially since the allegations are strong and he was charged. So I think North Melbourne made the right decision to get rid of him, but I don't think you should give him a second chance like this, especially after what he did. You didn't give other players chances, so why should he get special privileges?
All right, so number 3 this week is an interesting one. Now, at the Olympics, Hockeyroos star Tom Craig, he decided to do something. He tried to purchase something from a 17-year-old. Got caught. It's a funny little bag.
And enough said. Just don't buy crushed up paracetamol in Paris, especially when you're on such a high profile as him at the Olympics. They're going to be more risks taken. No need for it. Do it. No, don't do it anywhere else. Just don't do it. There's no need to do drugs. Drugs are bad.
You'll be a terrible person to come in because you'll be stumbling over your words, and the kids will be like, "Oh, he's here to talk about not doing drugs," and you're just going,
I'll be the new Healthy Harold. I'll come into the primary schools and go, "G'day, kids! Don't do drugs." Number 2, we were talking about it before. Ray Gunn from the breakdancing. That was something else.
That was awful. That's generally the worst thing I've ever seen. Did you hear about how she apparently got selected?
No.
She had apparently the green cultural I don't know. There's something from a movement, and she convinced them to take her by using that.
That's outrageous. I think I'm more shocked at the move she pulled out. Do you see the kangaroo hop she did? Yeah. The judges did not like the kangaroo hop.
That was awful.
It's like you go, that's not breakdancing. The Australian guy had to try and make up for what she performed. But I think enough damage is done. The US are laughing at us. It's gone worldwide.
Yeah, where that was probably the worst thing I've seen at the Olympics.
It was. Now,
it's not as bad as this one. Turn it up, Essendon fans. You're number 1 this week. Racism isn't cool, all right? As a Collingwood fan, I've never seen such a bad thing ever. All right,
clip that. That's rich. I think obviously McAndrew started a punch on halftime, but there's no need to boo the bloke in the second half because the fight was started by one of your players. So don't go booing a guy just because he's trying to defend his teammates.
It's simple. Don't be racist.
And it comes back to bite you.
It does.
He kicked the winning goal.
Apparently someone also said something to him at some place.
There's been a lot of speculations.
So that also would come to kill you in the end.
Yes, but that is our top 5 for Melon of the Week.
Now, this is a serious chat. This is where I have a serious question that I want to pose. And then I chat about it because I don't think you know about what I'm talking about.
I know enough.
Anyway, the chat this week is about, is it time for the A-League to finally adopt a regular transfer system? Now, to basically explain it, right now the transfer system doesn't allow for intra-club transfers unless it's a trade. Now, that's fine and all if it follows the same as AFL or it was the NBA where you're in your pinnacle. The A-League is not. So players basically either ask to be their contract terminated or they walk off to a different country where we lose all our best players. And at the same time, where then after all they're all terminated, they just come back anyway to different teams. This situation happened last year. Bruno Fornaroli goes from Perth to Victory. Has a great season. So just a couple of years ago anyway. And yet he probably could have just had a transfer. Perth could have easily made a little bit of money to help with them. But no.
It really doesn't help the clubs because the clubs should be the ones in power, not the players. The club should have... They're paying all this money to have these players and to have them come back saying, I just want my contract terminated so I can go to a different club or go to a different place. Especially when they're in the middle of their contract. It gives the clubs really are meaningless now because they don't have any power.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking. Now, not every club has the same issues. Adelaide, I've found has had mostly nothing too bad. They've had some players leave, but that's not really their control. But most of the clubs don't have any power over their players, and fair enough. If you don't have anything to do, then you can't really control players. This issue, though, is going to happen where we have the second division. They're going to have a whole completely different rule set for transfers when they come up. So when the A-League is now still, you have to exchange a player for us. Well, no. I can just get a free player from the second division. or I can go. Or players be like, oh well, I'm not going to go for a trade, or I'm going to go overseas, or I can go down to second division and get paid more because I don't want to stay here.
I think if the A-League want to grow as a league and sort of have that more power, so you look at, from my memory, obviously the prime what I remember A-League was when about 2015, 2016, when Victory had Bessart Barisha, and that was like when I remember at its best. I think if they want to get back there, they need to have more grounded rules to make sure that the league can grow and draw in this talent.
Well, Barisha was a player who went through Brisbane and then had the exact same experience where he went to Victory after having to leave his contract, basically. This is something that shouldn't have to happen within a league. You shouldn't have to worry about players going across the different teams by asking, well, either running out their contract or them not going to sign a long contract because of the fact that they don't want to stay at one team if they aren't going to be respected.
And you see the likes of Europe, especially in England, Germany, Spain, none of them have, if they want to get these talent, obviously it's all in the power of the club. The club have the power, whereas the players, they can ask for a trade or a transfer, but it doesn't really align with maybe what the club wants, and the club can keep him and hold him to that contract that they have signed.
Now, also the salary cap is probably something else that we can have a serious chat about, and that's something else for another day. But stuff like that. This season we had Dan Hall, who's someone who's knocking on the Socceroos squad, go from Mariners to Auckland because money obviously is going to be a lot better going in as one of the better players. That shouldn't be a situation where the player is going for free because he didn't sign a long enough contract, because he doesn't feel like there's that outlet in A-League to go for a transfer, or at the club it's not stable enough to get more money eventually because they're not going to offer more money because they need to get more players under the salary cap.
Yeah, I think there's still, once they get the contract, once they get some more increase in the salary cap, it's obviously going to be a bit easier. The players can get a bit more than what they think they deserve. But I feel like, yeah, like you said, there isn't much the clubs can do, and it hurts them because they end up losing money because players want to go. And then what they've envisioned for, say, a 5-10 year outline can all go out the window if a player is like, oh, I don't want to be here anymore and wants to go to a rival club, and that then hurts them.
Well, most of the teams nowadays don't even look at a 5-year outlook. They look at a 2-year because most of the time players will sign a 2-year, 3-year deal max. That's that's an issue with the mindset of a league. Where you're overseas, people will happily sign a 5-year deal. Happily sign in Australia, in other sports, will happily sign a long-term deal. NBL clubs, so in basketball, obviously going to be different because they want to go overseas again.
Where do you believe the A-League has to improve or go to be able to keep this from not happening again?
The simplest terms, they need to bring in a different scheme to register players. Salary cap, one thing, doesn't work. It works in other sports where you don't have another pinnacle. In football, where it's worldwide, salary cap doesn't work. MLS, they have to basically bend their salary cap to get players in. So the best way to do it is registration rules. So say a player has to be from their youth academy. Then you actually have a youth academy system that works. It doesn't work right now in Australia. Then you have, say, only 5 international players like they do right now. Then you're at least keeping it at the Australian talent. And then you have a certain worry about everywhere else. Because you're not just going to go overseas and go, hey, I'll pay you $1,000 to come over. You don't get paid that much there. There's 15 players from the country.
Now we're going to move on to our final segment, and one I look forward to every week, and this is the Nuffies Multi.
Now, the Nuffies Multi, obviously, gamble responsibly. That's the first major thing. We aren't sponsored, though, so we don't need to worry too much about what we say.
We will take any gambling company who wants to sponsor us on. We will take whatever, and we will endorse you as much as we can.
While gambling responsibly.
Sure.
Now, this week, the Friday night game, as we mentioned beforehand, is Essendon versus Sydney. Now, both these teams are looking to win. Essendon to keep their hopes alive. Just keep their hopes alive. And Sydney keeping their form going into finals, getting that regained form.
I think there's a lot of value to make some bets out tonight. But our first leg we're looking at is we like the Sydney winning line at $1.58. So we're going to take Sydney for the win.
Now, Will Hayward had 2 goals last week. He had 2 goals the week before. We have him getting 2 goals again. I don't see where Essendon defend him well. So he's saying 2 goals is $1.80.
Very good. We also like Mason Redmond for 80 plus fantasy points. He's been in very good form. He gets the ball a lot off halfback, and he's paying $1.32.
Now, Heaney may have been a standout last week, but Chad Warner wasn't too far behind, and we reckon he'll bounce back again with the 25 disposals. That's paying $1.57.
And our final leg of the game, Mr. Sam Durham has been a star for Essendon this year, and we've got him getting 20 plus disposals, paying $1.22.
Now, total comes to $6.24. Put some money on it. Might get a meal. Might get a Macca's real quick.
I like the McValue meal. That can get you. You put $1 on that, you can walk out with a McValue meal.
That would be a very nice night.
I like that.
Anyway, that's the end of our episode this week. Now, we're obviously going to have both our teams watching with complete and utter hope, but probably pain.
Hope is the word to say. There's a lot of hope and not a lot of
talent.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just we'll come back next week and see how we go.
Well, the copium's continuing. I'm Jonty Berry.
I'm depressed.
No, you're Ethan Stone.
Good night.